Hey guys, it's Allie with Roll With Us DMs. In a little bit, you're going to hear Gary talk about burning hands in DC20, Pathfinder, and D&D 5th edition. But real quick, I just wanted to let everyone know that we're starting a new campaign on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Start Playing. We're calling it Lost Minds of DC20. It's Lost Minds of Phandelver that Gary has converted to the DC20 system. If you want to join us, we still have 2 spots left. I'm going to add a link in the description, and I'm hopefully going to tag it here in the video. I will figure out how to do that. But it's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Session 0 is this Saturday. So come join. Have fun.
Hey there. I just ran a successful session of DC20, The Hunted, and I did spend my focus point during that session, and it's time to refocus and regain that focus point. So today I wanted to talk about common spell that is shared between DC20, D&D 5th edition, and Pathfinder 2nd edition, and that is Burning Hands, or as it's called in DC20, Burning Flames. Also renamed in Pathfinder 2nd edition to Breathe Fire, but I'm just going to look at the Legacy version. They're very similar otherwise. So let me transition out of the library and over to my screen share. And you see on the screen here, I have Burning Flames. So the DC20 version of this spell costs 2 action points and 1 mana point. It has a range of self and 10 spaces. You'll understand that in a minute. A brilliant flame manifests around you. Choose a type of area, a line, a cone, or a sphere. And you are the spell point, the point of origin for the spell. If you choose a line, then you shoot a 10 space line, so 50 feet in D&D and Pathfinder terms, from you, and all creatures in that area would be affected by it. If you choose a cone, then you create a 3 space cone, and the spell would affect all the creatures within that cone. Essentially a 15-foot cone, and as you see in the other versions of Burning Hands, it is a 15-foot cone. Or you can choose a sphere, where the spell affects every target within 2 spaces of you, kind of like blasting fire out around you in a 10-foot sphere. You make a spell check against every target's physical defense within the spell's area, and if you hit them, you deal 2 fire damage. So a couple things to note for DC20 is that when you make a spell check against a PD, against a physical defense, every 5 that you beat their physical defense by, you're going to get an additional point of damage. If you critically succeed, you're going to get 2 additional damage. So while this spell's base damage is the target takes 2 fire damage, you have the potential to deal, say on a critical, you're going to deal the 2 plus 2 for the crit is 4, and let's go low with that crit and say that it's only a heavy hit. It's probably brutal at that point. You're getting 5 damage to each creature that you hit, and with a critical you would probably hit them all. So you could be talking 15-20 damage easy with this spell. And then looking down a little bit further, there are mana point enhancements for the spell. You can spend 1 mana point for forcing a save against burning, so you can actually ignite the enemies that you hit with it. And you can spend a mana point to change the point of origin to 15 spaces instead of self. So some cool things that you can do with that. Instead of having the cone or the line only go 10 spaces, you could increase that range to 15 spaces, but also you believe that you could have those origins start out up to 15 spaces. And if you did the sphere, it would be almost like Fireball in the sense that you would be creating this burst of fire up to 15 spaces from you, and it would be a 10-foot sphere centered on that point. So look at the D&D 5e version. We have a first level spell, casting time of 1 action. Itself, just like the Burning Flames 15-foot cone, so very similar in that regard, except you don't have the option of the line or the sphere. The flavor text is, as you hold your hands with your thumbs touching and fingers spread, a thin sheet of flame shoots forth from your outstretched fingertips. The creatures within the 15-foot cone make a dexterity saving throw, taking 3d6 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. It does ignite flammable objects in the area that aren't being worn or carried. The interesting thing here is that Burning Hands from 5th edition can light things on fire, but it cannot light creatures on fire like Burning Flames can if you spend the extra mana point on it. And then if you cast a spell using a higher spell slot, you can increase the damage by 1d6 per spell slot cast. After we look at the Pathfinder 2nd edition version, I have thoughts on if you were to upcast this to the highest level, what that damage might look like. So, looking at the Pathfinder 2nd edition version, Burning Hands, again, Breathe Fire is the remastered version. The difference is, instead of the gout of flame rushing from your hands, you breathe it from your mouth. It still does 2d6 fire damage to creatures in the area. They get a reflex save to mitigate the damage, and if you heighten it by casting Burning Hands or Breathe Fire with a higher level spell slot, the damage increases by 2d6 for each spell slot level higher. So, to talk about the upcast quick there, if you were to cast Burning Hands in D&D 5th edition with the highest level spell slot possible, a 9th level spell slot, it would deal 11d6 damage. The average damage on that is 44. And in Pathfinder 2nd edition, if you were to upcast Burning Hands using a 10th level spell slot, it would deal 20d6 damage, and the average on that is 80. So, because the Pathfinder 2nd edition version does scale better, as you upcast it, it quickly catches and overtakes the 5th edition version as far as damage is concerned. Noteworthy here, the Pathfinder 2nd edition version does not mention anything about lighting anything on fire, not the creatures that you hit, not the objects that they carry. I'm going to switch back over to the DC20 version quickly, because it's important to point out that while I said that you could spend a mana point to apply burning, you can only spend 1 mana per spell at first level. So while you can eventually spend 2 mana points on this spell to light creatures on fire, at level 1 you're only going to be able to actually just cast the spell at its base level. At level 3, when you can spend 2 mana points on a spell, which is equivalent to like upcasting in the other systems, then you could spend 2 mana points to not only deal the damage to the creatures in the area, but also to apply burning to them if they were to fail the save. So, what are my final thoughts on Burning Hands, Burning Flames across the 3 systems? Well, if upcast, the Pathfinder 2nd Edition version is stronger than the 5th Edition version. The 5th Edition version has more utility than the Pathfinder version because it can light objects on fire. The DC20 version shines because of its flexibility of creating a line, a cone, or a sphere instead of being limited to just the cone. And the mana point enhancements do allow for some interesting enhancements to craft the spell the way that you would like. It's not really fair for me to talk about the damage difference between DC20 and 5th Edition and Pathfinder because their damages are rolling dice versus flat damage. However, it is important to remember that the DC20 version is going to deal extra damage for every 5 that you beat a creature's physical defense by, and so the potential to deal a lot of damage in DC20 terms is there with this spell, and that spell check is going to be against the physical defense of all of the creatures within the area. So again, in DC20 terms, I would say that this Burning Flames is a very effective spell and very well done, especially when compared against the 5th Edition and Pathfinder 2nd Edition versions. So that's about all I have for this 10-minute refocus. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm refocused and I'm ready to get on to the next encounter, which I believe is boxing up some trees for an order. So I hope you have a great day. If you haven't already, check out the Kickstarter for DC20. It is killing it in the totals, over $1,100,000 earned and fully funded in the first minute. So that's about all I have for today. Take care, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content that you just saw, consider joining one of our games at startplaying.gaming/rollwithusDMs.